from PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who's just, I guess you could say I'm semi-sweet. I never thought about that. I was trying to think, I was like, I guess I'm semi-sweet. Like, I mean, that's a pop, and I'd say, well, some people say, oh boy. But I'd say, well, that's a pretty popular kind of chocolate chip. So I'd say, yes, semi-sweet's pretty good when it comes to chocolate chips and to be honest, sleep podcasters. Because if I was too sweet, it would, for some people that doesn't work. And you definitely wanted some sweetness in your sleep podcaster kindness, right? Now, if you're new, you may already be wondering, what is going on here? Well, welcome to Sleep With Me. It's a podcast that's here to keep you company and take your mind off stuff so you could fall asleep. To be your friend in the deep, dark night, your distracting, semi-sweet friend. Now, my intention is full sweetness, but I only apply, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, you get but behind the scenes, I'm sweet, you know, I'm here to do something sweet, but only with semi-sweetness. I think that, I don't even know, is there other places there's semi-sweet chocolate? Because other than chocolate chips, why am I talking about semi-sweet? Well, because tonight's episode is a crossover with another podcast called The Bittersweet Life. But if you're new, welcome to Sleep With Me. I wanted to tell you about the show, and then I'll talk about our crossover. So I'm glad you're here. This is a podcast, like I said, to keep you company, take care of myself. It is a bit different, so just give it a few tries, see how it goes. But I'm really glad you're here. Structure we got coming up, I'll talk a little bit about the Bittersweet Life. Then we'll have support for the show. Then a long, meandering intro meant to ease you into bedtime, along with this beginning part. And then later on, I'll be reinterpreting a couple episodes of a podcast in Rome or Roma, however you say it. So I'm glad you're here. I work really hard, and I'm excited to know. Oh, let me tell you about the Bittersweet Life. Right from their website, it's made by my friends Katie and Tiffany. The Bittersweet Life began over 6 years ago in Rome when two childhood friends from Seattle reconnected in Italy and decided to explore the highs and lows of the expat experience. Over the years, the show has grown into a much larger examination of life. Inspiring a worldwide community of seekers to consider a less ordinary path for themselves. And the show has two very different perspectives. Katie lived in Rome for 1 year and left behind a really successful job in public radio to move abroad. And she's continued her search for wonder and belonging since moving back to the States and regularly interviews authors to aid in the journey. And Tiffany moved to Rome 15 years ago, determined to stay. And since becoming an expat, Tiffany's overcome homesickness, a challenge to earn a living, gotten used to living the ups and downs, and becoming an Italian citizen and a mother during the course of the show. Tiffany's also a licensed tour leader who regularly shares her deep knowledge of Rome's history and art on the show. And many episodes are like a virtual. You'll love this podcast, by the way. This is Scoots interjecting. You got to check out the Bittersweet Life. There's virtual walks through the Eternal City, soundscapes. I mean, I'll just be doing the lulling parts tonight, and I'll have both episodes that we're covering in the show notes, and we'll talk about it more. But what do you say we get on with the show? Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this episode today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy. All right, everybody, it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, Helix Sleep. And I do not know what you're waiting for. If you listen to the show, I really feel like I should hear from almost every single listener. Have you taken that Helix sleep quiz, and which mattress did you get matched with? Because it's going to fit you and your sleep needs, just like my Helix fits mine. I love my Helix mattress. When I took the quiz a long, long time ago, wonderful long relationship I've had with my Helix. When I took that quiz, I wanted something where I could sleep on my side, I could sleep on my stomach. I don't want to get hot and stuffy. I got matched with the Helix Dusk. I picked the Helix Dusk Luxe. And night after night, that is what allows me to be here for you, is the good rest I get in my Helix mattress. So I'm happy with my Helix. Which Helix are you going to be happy with, right? Like, what are you sleeping in right now? Is it made for you and how you sleep? Did you and your partner take a quiz, like the Helix quiz, together and say, yeah, that's the one for us? Because you could do that right now with the Helix quiz. And then the mattress could come straight to your door, shipped free of charge, ready to go, and you could start your long-term relationship with a mattress that's there for you and how you sleep, what you prefer. Think about how much better you're going to be sleeping in that situation. And Helix always has a great deal, so get over there. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide. That's helixsleep.com/sleep for 20% off site-wide. helixsleep.com/sleep. Thanks, everybody. All right, we're trying this new thing called No Stone Unturned, where I'm going through these testimonials from real listeners who benefit from the show and looking at, hey, I know I benefit from the show. I know it makes my life better, but there was this one thing standing in my way of supporting it directly. So if this is the thing standing in your way, listen up. If you can afford to support the show, it makes your life better. If you rely on the show relies on you. All right, this is a good one. It came from Jennings because I had something I didn't even realize gets in the way of some people supporting the show. I love falling asleep, the friendly voice in the deep dark night with no expectations. And despite the apparently lackadaisical rambling nature of each episode, you clearly put in a lot of effort, and I want to support that and keep bringing you to the world's deep dark night. Your podcast is definitely worth paying for, but I don't like subscriptions. How often have I ended up paying for a subscription and not using it? Too many times. And that was my biggest obstacle in subscribing. Another consideration I had to overcome was the belief that you were probably getting supported by some big grant and didn't need my contribution so much. Now I understand there is no such grant. That's it for the support of the show. It's mainly listener support. We don't get any grants. We don't have any funding. And our sponsors only support us based on listener support back. That's how we're able to be here for you is listeners like Jennings. So if you identify with what Jennings said, if Sleep With Me makes your life better, don't wait. Support the show. And I'm pretty proud of the work I put into the main show that comes out night after night after night. So please support the show. SleepWithMePodcast.com/plus. Thanks, Jennings. Oh, Mystery Bard. A lot of people help out on the show. Who are they?
Chris Posty Poster Son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes too. Carl W. the Legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound. I am the mystery bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at JonathanMann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Anna like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mystery Bard. And don't forget, the most comfortable way to listen to Sleep With Me is with sleep phones. You can get Sleep With Me merch, Sleep With Me branded sleep phones at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. And use Sleep With Me at checkout to get $5 off your order. The only way you can get the Sleep With Me merch editions is sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. Thanks, everybody. What do you say we slow it down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is to create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be thoughts about the past, thoughts on your mind about the past, the present, the future, thinking thoughts, imaginary, real conversations. I have a lot of those during the day. I've really been trying to be more mindful of them. I'll have imaginary conversations with people, and then I'll have imaginary conversations about those things. And those are real people. Imaginary conversations, real people. Maybe that's a new podcast, or it could be a Sleep With Me episode, I guess. Somebody remind me that imaginary conversations with real people. So you can have no, I'm not actually talking to the people in real. Believe it or not, I'm not. But in those imaginary conversations, I'm barely real. That's why I say I got to be more mindful of this. Because I see, who is this person expounding on things that may or may not be real facts and trying to be impressive, I guess is what it comes down to for me. And those are thoughts at bedtime that have a certain expectation, and they're less accepting of me as I am. So that's a little bit about my thoughts. It could be feelings, anything emotionally coming up related to those thoughts, or from the day, or in anticipation of something, or feelings that are just there, right there at bedtime. I don't know. Sometimes we bring them with us, and sometimes they're there waiting for us. It could be physical sensations, changes in time, temperature, routine, travel, work. You could work a different schedule. You could be going through something, in the middle of something, getting over something. Whatever it is, I'm here to keep you company and take your mind off of it so you could fall asleep. I'm not really here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company as you drift off, which is different. But there's a twofold reason I make this show. One is I've been there, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. Baffling reasons, work schedule, anticipation, getting over something, going through something. A lot of different reasons, and then sometimes I just don't know. Like even last night, I woke up for an hour, and I said, what's up? So sometimes I just don't know. And it's always better if I'm kind and accepting, but that's really hard in the moment. And that's where I come in for you. This is why I do the show as a service. It's much less like a podcast and more like an audio service, because I know what it's like. Why, I provide a service for people, or I guide you to another podcast that might help you, because I know what it feels like for me. And if it feels like that for you, I want to help. Or if it just feels strongly for you, I want to help. Even if you're experiencing stuff that I'm not familiar with or I can't relate to. I mean, sometimes I can relate to some of the feelings. I'm pretty confident. But even if I can't, I still want to help, because I know the other side of it is it's nice to get the sleep we need, right? And it's not nice when it's hard, or there's obstacles to it, or it feels like just out of reach. And the best part is there's people listening to this show who are rooting for you, who can really relate to how you feel. And there's people you don't know around the world thinking kindly of you right now. And then there's some of you who are also thinking kindly. Your regular listeners, you're giving it and receiving it. Right? You're thinking kindly of the new listeners and the regular listeners, and there's regular listeners who have been through what you're going through, who are thinking of you. What a great exchange. It is a little bit indirect, and but I hope you could feel that. You really do have to kind of pause and soak it in, and it's a subtle, special thing we have here. The other reason I make the show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. But you, like I said, you deserve a bedtime you don't have to dread, that you could look forward to or feel neutral about. And that's what I hope I can be a part of. Like you say, well, at least I got that dude who rambles on and on about nothing. The bittersweet guy. No, he's not bittersweet. He's like the old semi-sweet. Wasn't that a song, Semi-Sweet Style of Life or something? Was that in the 90s? I don't think that was. There was a song. There was also a song about in the 90s. There was another band, Big Head Todd. They sang a song, but it wasn't about semi-sweet either. He's more semi than sweet though. That's what if that's funny. That's what they'd sing about me. Yeah, he's more semi. What's semi? It's like the new mid. He's like the new mid. What's that? Oh, it's a word I heard a teenager use. So semi's the new mid? It might be. I mean, it does seem like it fits, and I know I'm more semi than sweets. It kind of makes sense. He's definitely semi-sweet, that one. No one said that about me, but it's the truest thing. It's the truest thing about me that's never been said until I said it about myself. And never realized, like, I'm not a morsel. Unfortunately, I'm not a morsel, though, but I'm semi-sweet. He's not a morsel, but, because that's what they say instead of chips. They say, oh, no, these aren't chips. These are morsels. What do you mean? Well, they look like drips, but we never called them drips. Technically, they're drips that have, hardened. So a lot of places call them chips. We call them morsels. Doesn't it sound good? And these are semi-sweet morsels. Yeah, but the podcaster, he's semi-sweet, more semi than sweet. He's sweet in intention. In presentation, he's almost... He's lacking sweetness, but it's in there somewhere. But with the sleep podcast, he tries to keep it semi-sweet. He goes off topic a lot. And he was in the middle explaining, you deserve a good night's sleep. That's why I make the show. Bedtime, that is more sweet than semi. That's what I prefer for your bedtime, for you. So... I mean, bittersweet's good in that way, too. You'd say, yeah, I'd prefer sweet bitters, I'd say it's got to be sweet, but I wouldn't mind a little bitter, a little tang in my my podcast, at least. That's why I don't think that's why I have creaky dulcet tones, but the way this podcast works is I send my voice across the deep, dark night. I've got lulling, soothing, creaky dulcet tones that are bitter but sweet and semi-sweet. Because you say, yeah, I do need that. I wouldn't mind a little sour, like a sour melon. But like that's what when you say, what is this podcast I'm listening to? I'd say, it's like one of those candies you taste. And people say, trust me, it's not like anything you ever tasted, but give it a second. And you say, what is this, a sour melon ball? This is just an example. See, I never taste anything like this. And like, you're like, wait a second. It's not too bad though. It's an acquired taste, right? Well, yeah, it took me, for sleep with me, it does take about 3 times for most people to acquire a taste for it. Sour melon ball. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I can imagine it's like, it's kind of like one of those imaginary candies, imaginary conversations, real people. But we're not actually, everything else is imaginary. So the real people aren't actually here. As I said in other podcasts, and someone pointed out actually that Nathan Fielder, the comedian, also, I mean, we must be related somehow. I gotta see if I could ever connect. Also rehearses for Nathan Fielder and I, we rehearse for life. That's a part of those imaginary conversations, real people. Unfortunately for me, never play. Anyway, I'm so far afield in a good way because I'm not here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company while you fall asleep. This is a podcast you just barely listen to. And I think you kind of are getting some pretty good examples why. Because I go on pointless meanders and superfluous tangents, and then eventually I try to return to things. because I'm not here to put you to sleep. I'm here to keep you company while you fall asleep, to take your mind off stuff, to be your bore friend, your bore bae, your bore sib, your bore bud, your neighbor, your semi-sweet friend, your Boris Borloff, your best bore friend forever, to keep you company. There's no pressure to fall asleep with the show. That's why the show's over an hour. So you don't have to think, okay, an hour, I got to be, say, no, there's plenty of time. Plenty of episodes, plenty of time. I'm here to put you to sleep slowly, but not even directly. Eventually you just fall asleep and you say, honey, what was that podcast about? You say, I don't know, but all of a sudden I realized that those chips that go in cookies are actually drips. So that's the first thing I thought of this morning. They're semi-sweet drips, not chips. And actually, they're not quite more. I mean, I think they're smaller. I would say they're less than a morsel, just in my opinion. But I just realized that they're drips, not chips. Okay, honey, why don't you? It sounds like so maybe you should go back to bed. No, but they're drips. I got to go get the bag and look to see if was that what he was talking about on the podcast. I think he was talking about playing ball with like he was some sort of ball game he was playing with melons. Which one? I don't know. You're right, hon. Maybe a cantaloupe or a honeydew. Off the top of my head, that's what I would think would be most suited. But yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna go upstairs and go through the cupboards for a while. Okay, hon. Great. I'm glad you got some sleep. So that's a typical sleep with me, listener. So yeah, just kind of see how it goes, right? Like I'm here to put you to sleep eventually. And this show just isn't for everybody. I wish it worked for 100% of the listeners, because I know, I believe you deserve a good night's sleep, whether you like me or not, whether you like the show or not. But this show it is an acquired taste, like those melon balls. And so also it's like a candy. I'm not talking about eating a melon like a ball. Melon ball. There's a melon baller. That's what I would call myself if I was playing a ball-based melon game. I'd say, oh boy, am I a melon baller. Oh boy, am I going to bring it. I'm going to bring the melon to the fruit plate. So what was I talking about though? Oh, most people don't like me or the show. It does take some getting used to. So what I recommend is just give it a few tries and see how it goes. Because when you first get here, you might have an expectation of something reasonable without all this nonsense. But this show is all about the nonsense, right? It's always never getting started. Because, I'm here to, I don't know, I just here to bring some levity to bedtime. Because, I mean, who wouldn't want to call themselves a melon baller if you were pretending to play a ball-based game with a melon? Not that I'm recommending that, because melons are pretty heavy. And it's more like, it's more for, it's another imaginary thing. My imaginary counterpart, the melon baller. Also, yeah, I could have great point. We could have a utility belt full of melon ballers, and, hard melon candies that were imaginary to try to make a metaphor about the podcast. And then I went way off track in a good way. So that's what I mean, where it takes some getting used to. Because I made this show to be different than the stuff 11 years ago that was meant to put people to sleep, that felt too serious to me, too straightforward, or just like not enough to get my attention, to distract me. And I know that stuff works for a lot of people, but I was looking for something different. And so I started making this show to kind of help people out. So just give it a try, see how it goes. If you don't like me or the show, don't worry. I have a website set up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/no thank you. That has other sleepy stuff on there that you could check out. So try that out, right? There's tons of sleep podcasts and other sleepy stuff on there, because you still deserve a good night's sleep, whether you like me, whether you say melon baller, rather never I knew you, or I don't know what you'd say on the way out, but Usually it's not that nice. It's funny. That's why I set up that website. I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. I said, hey, no need to send me that message. I've gotten it before already. So, no need to send it. Just go. We'll hopefully find another sleep podcast to help you get some sleep. So the only other thing I want to tell you about is the structure of the show. Because it's good news. Like, this show is structured the way it is after doing this for a long time, getting a lot of feedback and trying to make something that helps the most amount of people it can. But it's also adjustable. That goes for every podcast, kind of. There's different ways to adjust how you listen as you become a regular listener. So the show starts off with a greeting. Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, so you feel seen and welcomed in. Then there's sponsor support. So paying for the show is optional. If you don't want sponsor support, you could get the show on Sleep With Me Plus or Apple Podcasts or wherever. And just like, then you don't have the ads. But that's, most people prefer something where paying's optional. Then there's a long meandering intro, which we're about like 15 minutes, 20 minutes into, meant to ease you into bedtime, where I explain what the podcast is. Tonight's a pretty good example. I go off topic a bunch of different times, but I'm following a familiar structure. But every time, every intro is different. So the show stays distracting, not like what I was looking for my whole life. I want something that barely engages me in a different way every time, but also has some familiarity to it and some friendliness to it. So that's what the intro is, but the intro doesn't put you to sleep. And if you decide you don't want the intros, we have a ad-supported podcast, Bedtime Stories from Sleep With Me, that's also in all podcast apps. So you could get that if you want it. And then, what was it talking? I'll structure the show. So after the intro support, then there'll be a bedtime story. Tonight will be our crossover with Bittersweet Life. I'll do 2 episodes of Bittersweet Life. And then you could listen to that podcast during the day to compare. It'll be fun for you. So I think that's it. That's the structure of the show. That's why I make the show. I'm really glad you're here. If you're new, I really appreciate you checking the show out. Regular listeners, as always, glad to have you back. I already forgot. I proposed an idea for an episode, but now I don't even know what it was. So looking forward to reminding me. I mean, we got 2 things out of it. Some sort of episode idea that I don't remember anymore. And then a character called a pseudo version of me called the Melon Baller. What was it called? Ordinary Conversations, Imaginary People? No. Real, something, Imaginary People? No. Real People, Imaginary Conversations. Was that the idea? I don't know. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. We work really hard, and this show exists only because of the people that opt in to this podcast to support it directly, to support our sponsors, or to spread the word about the show. This show is an effort based by the people that benefit from it the most, and then everybody else gets to benefit, but it's only when people opt in, and you get a lot of good feelings, because think about it, those of you that are opting in, not only are you sending your good intentions across the deep, dark night, you're doing an action with that. So it's like, I really couldn't do it without all of you that opt in to support the show. So thank you so much. And if you're new, thank you so much. Because like I said, it is an acquired taste. So I appreciate you checking the show out. And I really hope I can keep you company and help you fall asleep tonight. Thanks. All right, everybody, this is Scoots here. This is a particular message. I'm going to be reading a testimonial from somebody who supports the show directly. This message is only for people that, you get a lot out of the podcast. You listen to it 2 or more times a week. If you listen all night long, or you listen to like 10 episodes a month, 12 episodes a month, you're the one I'm trying to get the message to. If you can afford to support the show, if you lean on the podcast, if it makes your life better, listen close to this testimonial and see if you identify with anything this listener said, because this is how we're able to be here for you. If you count on the podcast, we really do count on you to support the show back, but only if you're able to. And the podcast makes your life better. If it's a part of your life, I'd love it if you'd be a part of the life of the podcast, because that's how we're able to be here for you. All right, this is a good one. It came from Jennings because it had something I didn't even realize gets in the way of some people supporting the show. I love falling asleep, the friendly voice in the deep dark night with no expectations. And despite the apparently lackadaisical rambling nature of each episode, you clearly put in a lot of effort, and I want to support that and keep bringing you to the world's deep dark night. Your podcast is definitely worth paying for, but I don't like subscriptions. How often have I ended up paying for a subscription and not using it? Too many times. And that was my biggest obstacle in subscribing. Another consideration I had to overcome was the belief that you were probably getting supported by some big grant and didn't need my contribution so much. Now I understand there is no such grant. That's it for the support of the show. It's mainly listener support. We don't get any grants. We don't have any funding. And our sponsors only support us based on listener support back. That's how we're able to be here for you is listeners like Jennings. So if you identify with what Jennings said, if Sleep With Me makes your life better, don't wait. Support the show. And I'm pretty proud of the work I put into the main show that comes out night after night after night. So please support the show. sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks, Jennings. All right, everybody, Scoots here. So make sure to check out during the day the Bittersweet Life podcast. And tonight we're starting with episode 441, The Oldest Cafe in Rome. And yeah, to check it out on your podcast app of choice or use the link in our show notes. So welcome to Rome. I don't know why Scoots took it. It wasn't easy for you to say that. Yeah, this is the Sleep With Me version of the Bittersweet Life with Katie and Tiffany. And I'm going to be filling in for both. I'm doing double duty here as both Katie and Tiffany. And I want you to start to picture yourself in Rome, or Katie and Tiffany in Rome, or Scooter in Rome, or just the faint mist in Rome. Maybe we'll observe Rome, at least in this episode, as a faint mist, water molecules in the air. Because we can go high, we can go low. We could see whatever we see. And right now, we're near the Spanish steps of Rome on a beautiful sunny day. Just a touch of mist in the air. It's warming up here in Rome, and soon we'll be going to a different location. However, we're going to introduce where we're going prior to getting there. And this is a show that's inspired by Bittersweet listener Paul. Not that Paul's bittersweet. He listens to the Bittersweet Life. Paul's been a long-time supporter of the show. Oh, boy, Paul, thanks for supporting podcasts you believe in. He's one of those wonderful people we count on to help us pay the bills in a big way. He supports the show $50 every month to keep the show going. This is what an amazing thing, Paul. And listeners of the Bittersweet Life, you get to influence what it is we do, what it is we talk about, where it is we go, and what it is we think about, however you want to take it. And Paul wanted us to go on a little adventure of looking for things. That's right. He sent us a very long and ambitious list of things to find on our adventure. A hunt of scavenging, as they say. Things to do, really, on our little adventure here. A sleepy adventure in this case is, we're sending mist out, floating through Rome. And because time is of the essence, and there's a lot of things on Paul's list. Even one thing would take sometimes like an entire day. And they're very good ideas that Paul has shared, though we don't have time today to do all of them. if Katie and Tiffany were here longer, if Mist, we do have to change, as Mist, we both, you and I listeners, I don't know what we do. I mean, we could become, we change form, right? Solid, liquid, gaseous. Right now we're in between state. But if Katie and Tiffany could have spent more time in Rome together, but don't worry, Katie let Paul know, because some of them are super fun ideas. Like, for instance, he said, what if we were to record and describe what we see if we were on every single bridge that crossed the river? And I think there's 24 bridges, which is a lot. And that would be a cool show to see. Like, how different is the neighborhood around each passage where the bridge crosses the Tiber River? But that might take 24 episodes, Paul. But Katie wrote to Paul and I asked him about it, and he said, just go ahead and pick something on the list. Whatever is on the list that feels like it would be good. And I trust you to come up with what it is you're doing. I'm more than happy to be a quiet supporter of the show, but since you wanted me to pick something from the list. So we decided to pick number 4 on Paul's list, which is to go to the oldest cafe in Rome and interview someone who works there or the owner. That is correct. So we're going to head to Antico Cafe Greco, which is right around the corner on Via Condati. It was founded in the year 1760 by someone, a Greek man, a man of Greek parentage anyway. And that's why it's called the Cafe Greco, after him, apparently. And the only cafe in Italy that is older than Cafe Florian in Venice. So that is pretty impressive. And I was thinking, how do you make a decision to open the first cafe in your entire city and the second in your entire country? Like, how do you have the confidence that people will come since clearly getting coffee outside your home is not a thing yet? Think about how it was 1760. Wow. Even in 1960, I don't know if getting cafe outside of your home was the thing, right? At least here in the U.S. Yeah, like, who knows? Like, if coffee shops are so prolific now, you almost forget that there was a time before that where it would have been odd to go outside of your house to get coffee. Exactly. That begs the question, when, we'd have to go back to our interview with Wendy Polger to hear this, but when did espresso makers become a thing? And when was it that people roast, people went from making a little bit on their stove to those big machines, making it pressed, making it fast, all that. Was it around this time? Yeah, I don't know. I was hypothesizing that perhaps because he was Greek, maybe it was a thing in Greece. So he had the confidence that people will come, or that people will love coffee, especially in the AM. Or, I don't know if back then people had a case of, I don't think people had a case of Mondays back then, but they could have. Scoots, are you adding in things from Kathy here? I am. But it's possible that we don't know, but I'm sure there is Greek coffee. But I don't know which place, but it's getting bigger now. So yeah, we're going to go there, and we're actually going to buy $1,000 coffee. I mean, I told Katie, this is a water vapor quoting Tiffany, that we should just do it because we're there. We're thinking about having lunch, and she said, let's just get lunch there. And I said, no, that's because it's the most famous and the oldest cafe in Rome. It's very touristy now. Lots of people want to say they've been there, and it's so packed with tourists, and it's very expensive. So Katie and I are going to do the authentic Italian thing. We're going to waltz inside and have our coffee at the bar at the Banco. That will make it so because it's less expensive. But I'm also curious to see how much it's going to cost. Because usually when you go to a cafe and you stand at the Banco, even in some of the most famous cafes in Rome, like Tazza d'Oro or Stani Staccio, usually it's around €1 for an espresso. A little more, a little less, but so I'm curious to see, like, what are they going to have there? What are they going to charge? We may be pleasantly surprised. I mean, we haven't even got there yet. They might not even have a bar. Like, you don't think Italians actually go there anymore, which they may or they may not. I don't know. We'll find out. I didn't think about that. Yeah, maybe it's all just seating at this point. Maybe people don't stop there on their way to work. I don't know. That's cool. That's a good point. I guess we'll see. Before we go in, we should definitely see why this bar, this cafe, why it's so impressive beyond the fact that it's just the oldest one here. Well, it's impressive, too, because it was the meeting place for a lot of intellectual and artistic non-Italians and some Italians who were in Rome during that period, starting in the late 1700s, all through the 1800s. In the early 1900s, the neighborhood. We're sitting in the area where the Spanish Steps are. And not a lot of people realize it because now it's so commercial. You got Prada, Gucci, Dolce & Gabbana, like, as all the shops and the tourists. And it's beautiful, but, got the staircase. There's bachelor party going on up there or something. Yeah, something. Museum to John Keats. And beyond that, don't you think about this as being like the left bank of Paris? So you don't, do you? You know what I mean? It doesn't have that same feel of being like the place all the intellectuals hung out. But actually, it is, or it was, starting in the late 1700s. This is where, if you were coming to Rome as part of the grand tour, meaning, you're a young American, English, German, you're traveling, you're well-to-do, you just finished all your education, you go to Europe. You have to go specifically to Italy as a part of your grand tour to celebrate the completion of your learning. If you don't go to Rome, this is the final part of your education, this trip. That's what they believed in at the time. And this was the neighborhood where everyone went. There's a Hotel Anglaise, the Hotel d'Inghilterra, the England Hotel, where everyone stayed and they got apartments and stuff. That's where the actual artists stayed, put their roots down. Keats, Shelley, Byron, Goethe. They all lived around here. And where did they go? Cafe Greco. Apparently, There's also Bebeton's Tea Shop, which opened about 100 years later because there's nowhere in the city to get a proper cup of tea. Well, that makes sense since they're all English. Yeah, so they need tea. A lot of them were English. So obviously that fills that niche. But the Cafe Greco has somehow, we don't have the list of everyone that was there, but a lot of people had coffee in this bar. All right, well, let's see whose shoes we're filling. Let's go through the list before we even set foot on the threshold. All right, yeah, because now us as Water Vapor and Katie and Tiffany's names are going to be added to this list. We'll tell Wikipedia, don't forget to put Katie, Tiffany, and, Water Vapor of Sleep With Me listeners on the list of famous historical figures who had coffee at the Antigo Cafe Greco. Stendhal, Goethe, Schopenhauer, Berzel, Thorvaldsen, Mariano Fortuny, Lord Byron, Georges Bizet, Berlioz, Brahms, Keats, Ibsen, Hans Christian Andersen, Mendelssohn, Joyce, D'Annunzio, Chateaubriand, Wells, Twain, Nietzsche, Mann, Gogol, Grieg, Canova, Decurio, Baudelaire, Wagner, and even more. And even supposedly Casanova had coffee in this bar. Wow. I mean, maybe even some of them are still, visiting on some level. Yeah, it's interesting. I always wonder how they come up with a list like that. Did they sign a guest book? I don't know. I'm kidding. But on the walk up to it, this, it doesn't have a wonderful reputation for allowing you to linger at a coffee shop in Italy. Usually here it's like get in and get out. It's not like in America where you could sit at a coffee shop for hours while you're writing your novel. Not in a coffee shop here. I mean, maybe it wasn't that way back then, or maybe it was like, okay, I don't know. Was it the people hang there, or did they get their coffee and keep moving? I'm curious. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in Vienna, the Vienna coffee houses were really where this whole idea was born. The idea that you sit, you got this big stack of newspapers. You sit in the cafe, you smoke, you drink coffee, and you talk to your fellow intellectuals all day long. That's a Viennese thing. It's not really an Italian thing, except maybe in Turin. But maybe the Cafe Greco was an exception. I like to picture it. I don't know why I picture Hemingway there because he's not on the list, but I picture Hemingway in there writing every day, getting up at 7, doing his writing. So I don't know. Maybe it was just a place where they got together during breaks between writing sessions or composing sessions. I don't know. That's interesting. I mean, I guess the regret is that you can only imagine it. You can't witness it for yourself. I know, like, I'd like to have some time travel goggles. The other interesting thing is when you were saying the grand tour is that we're sitting close, as you mentioned, to the Keats Shelley Museum, which is something that I don't think most people go to. It's basically a preservation of the room, the final room that Keats lived in before he moved on in the 1800s, in the early 1800s. And, we have another episode about Keats. Wrote an article about it, but, at the place where some people rest, which is one of my favorite places to go when I'm in Rome. And, there's other places where people rest. But this is where Keats and Percy Shelley are resting. And I was struck again by how many people are resting there because they give these great descriptions, their whole life written out when they came to Rome. This nice Italian sun. They said, hey, I'm coming to Italy for the intellectuals in the sunshine, right? That'll turn things around. That's kind of like, we spent time here in a similar situation. Yeah, you're right about that. So, a lot of people, regular people, intellectuals, came to Rome, and some stayed, and some went to Rome in another realm. Yeah, so I wonder if that's a reason that that place is built that I like going to. Maybe, guests from I guess depending on their belief system, huh? The belief system they were associated with, and, they fell in love with the city and they wanted to stay here. Yeah. Interesting thought. Very interesting. Well, let's head over. What do you think? I'm ready. We've introduced this place pretty well. With this gravitas we've been growing. I think so. I mean, just the name, or the names on the list. Like Goth, at Goth Head Coffee there, so I'm going there. Or Hans Christian Andersen. Is that even a real person, I wonder? I mean, I know it is. But so ubiquitous that you feel like it was something, like was there a time before that? And yeah, don't forget to support your podcast, right? Support a show like this means a lot to us. All right, so let's head over there. I wonder what it would be like working in the oldest cafe in Rome. Could we ask that? Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, we're now standing outside the cafe itself. All the outdoor seats are full. And we floated over. I mean, they don't have that many seats, but we're going to go in and see if it has a bar and see if we can talk to somebody as requested. We'll try. All right, let's try. All right, are you ready? What do you think? Do you think Percy Shelley or Hans Christian Andersen or ghosts keeping an eye on us? I don't know. Maybe like, oh yeah, there is a bar in here. Oh, good. There's a bar. But yeah, Keats 100%. Now, most of these cafes, you have to pay before you actually get your food or drink. So let's head over and do it the correct way. And this place is full of tourists, so I bet you they're insisting on it. Okay, here, you hold this. I'll get out my credit card. I'm going to pay based on Paul's support. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see if we'll find out how much it's going to be. Do you want anything besides coffee? Anything like a sweet pastry thingamabob? I mean, I don't know. It depends on how much they're going to cost. Okay, yeah, we'll just do 2 coffees. Is it €5? €5 for 2 coffees. $2.50 each. I'm pleasantly surprised. Do you want to ask how long she's worked here? Okay, so she's worked here about a year. Never met Keats when he came in, sadly. Let's see how this coffee is. I don't normally have coffee except on a special occasion, like at a cafe. Do you want to drop a milk in yours? Sure. Okay, you too? Yeah. I'm going to grab a picture of this. All right, now they've given us a little bonus piece of mini chocolate. Wow. Paul, you get a mini chocolate. We got a mini chocolate. Thanks, Paul. Coffee's being made here. It's not quite as crowded as I expected it to be. Yeah, maybe the myth is worn off. Well, it's more like it's 12 o'clock, so people are either having lunch or thinking about having lunch. They're not really doing the coffee thing at 12. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so we ordered some cafe macchiatos, which means it's steamed with milk, a little bit of milk. And they made it into hearts. A little heart. The milk is in the shape of a heart. Or has a heart shape on it. Here we go. Paul, we're about to drink our coffee at the famous oldest cafe in Rome. It's pretty good. Thanks, Paul. We'll get you a Cafe Greco napkin and a Cafe Greco sugar packet as a souvenir. And I'm going to put some of this very famous sugar into my drink right now. So, that's the first time, it was 17 years. Such an important place for Italian literature. Not just Italian literature, but a lot of stuff written about or in Rome and intellectual thinkers thinking about Rome. Yeah. Okay, so you hold the equipment and coffee. Okay. I thought we could read some quotes about Rome, of course. I have this big list, and some of them have nothing to do with literature, so I'm going to skip those. Here's one from Goethe. Only in Rome is it possible to understand Rome. Would you agree with that? I would. Yeah, I mean, you can't really imagine it. You have to experience it. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're not here, You don't really get the feeling of the span of centuries you do when you are here. But you also don't get to see modern life on top of ancient life, like actual people that are here living now, in the perfume, in the city smells, and all this beauty and grittiness combined together. Yeah, that's very, very true. I love this quote because of how exuberant it is. "O Rome, my country, city of the soul." Lord Byron. It's like, how do you really feel about Rome? Can you explain it better? I think he likes it. Yeah, he's got another quote in here. Oh, no, it's Goethe again. Okay. "I've finally arrived to this capital of the world. I now see all the dreams of my youth coming to life." I love to imagine these guys, obviously well-educated, well-read, read about Rome. They've read about this stuff, the history. Finally, they get to see with their own eyes because they don't have YouTube back then or Instagram or pictures. They can only imagine what it is they're seeing that's been written in books and hear people talking about it. And, they're artists. They may be sensitive, so they're moved by it. I love reading that. Yeah, I love reading it, too. I do love when they write about it, that they had to try to express their thoughts. I mean, we've talked about it on the show, but one of my biggest things about people traveling to Rome or anywhere is that it's so focused on the documentation of it and not the focus on the living of it. And I think there's probably people doing both, but I feel that anybody that needs to document their trips so much, yeah, that's true with travel these days. I do it too, though. I got to go against the instinct. Yeah, like documenting and they're documenting, I guess, in a different way, a more thoughtful way, maybe. Or maybe I'm being a Luddite, preferring the way it used to be instead of the way it is in my lifetime. But there's a really beautiful one by Anatole Broyard. Do you know who Anatole Broyard is? No. I don't know. I just heard the name with association with this quote, but it's so beautiful. "Rome was a poem pressed into service as a city." Wow, that's lovely. It is. Katie, do you have a quote about Rome you could read for us? Yeah, this is by Louisa May Alcott. She writes, "Rome took all the vanity out of me, for after seeing the wonders there, I felt too insignificant and then paraphrasing made my thoughts feel foolish." So paraphrased, but yet but beautiful and dramatic. But you stand in front of the Colosseum or any of these other monuments, I can see it feel insignificant. Or the pyramid, the pyramid in Rome that's been here since 12 BC. It looks nearly new. You can't help but stand in front of that pyramid and think, I'm just one of millions of people that stood by this for these generations. And this pyramid will be long here after me. Yeah, I mean, why even bother with vanity? Like she's saying, it makes you feel insignificant. It was inspiring, too, at the same time. I think a lot of people stood here inspired to do amazing things, so why not me? So it could go in either way. That's true. I mean, we're standing in front of the cafe where all these people spent time. And now we're here. So thank you, Paul, for this idea. It's been an adventure. And we'll take some photos to get an idea of where it is. And like I said, you get a fancy napkin, a packet of sugar. And thank you so much. Let's also move on to episode 440. Where are all the accordions? And we're right here. We're going to start out near Tiffany's place. It's a fine spot to sit, a brilliant sunny afternoon. And we're still water vapor. And we're talking about a mishmash, a kaleidoscope of different things, observations or information. We're going to find out. Yeah, I mean, because Katie asks, you first asked when I come back to the States every couple of years, what's surprising you? What did you forget about? What are you not used to? What has changed? And the one thing I changed that I've noticed in Rome of all my walking around recently is that I haven't heard a single accordion, not one. I haven't even seen a person holding an accordion. Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Not until you said that. I don't even remember the last time I heard an accordion. So we're going to have to come up with a different theme song then, right? Because when I was here and we picked the accordion theme, it was one you've heard 1,000 times. If you listen to the show, it's a quintessential Rome accordion. But now, from what I can tell, if you listen to the podcast during the day, you could hear the accordion. But from what I'm seeing walking around now, it's a 3-part jazz combo. It's the new sound of Rome. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. But yeah, we could, if you listen to this podcast during the day, you could hear one of the many jazz combos you could hear as you walk around Rome. I mean, I like it. It's a step in the right direction. But yeah, don't you feel nostalgic? Like you've heard these songs over and over again. What about it? Well, yeah, it's not like they're playing traditional Italian music. It's, I don't know where it comes from. It's not, I think the tourists think it's a traditional, but it's quaint and picturesque. But I think those of us that live here, like, when you're sitting trying to have dinner, and someone comes up and starts playing and holding their cup out, you say, well, I don't know if I need to listen to you or pay you for me to listen to you. You mean as an accordion versus a jazz combo, huh? Yeah, I like that music more. It's just more my taste. And it's usually like people are feeling it, right? I'm not against accordion players. I think it's a worthy instrument. And I love some of the stuff, some of the Argentinian style stuff, the buskers and what they do. And there's a shtick, But when you see someone who's actually playing jazz or playing the drums, and they have a certain amount of training and talent, maybe it's going on at a higher level, but maybe it's also personal and personal taste. I like that music better. Well, yeah, another thing I've noticed, not as much of in Rome, although I've been correct, I could stand corrected actually, is a lot of people doing their own take on really famous pop songs, like maybe not singing along, but if they have a violin or they're playing the guitar, they might be playing a popular, a familiar pop song, but they're playing it acoustic of their own take. I've also seen that in Berlin. There was someone playing a recorder. And I've never heard of play a recorder as beautifully, so I recorded it, and I'll play it on the daytime podcast. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody play the recorder that's not an elementary student. Yeah. And I'll tell you, if you can identify the song, it's one thing that hasn't totally disappeared from Rome, but it's another thing that people probably don't necessarily associate with Rome. Another instrument called, the dulcimer. I was walking around, I finally heard some dulcimer yesterday. Oh, wait, I'm trying to figure out what a dulcimer is. Well, if you listen to Bittersweet Life during the day, you could hear the example of a dulcimer. Kind of sounds like a piano. I don't necessarily associate the dulcimer specifically with Rome. But when I lived here, there was always this jazz combo, but not a jazz combo, but they were focused around the dulcimer. Oh, wait, yeah, was that in Santa Maria, like this big thing? Well, the dulcimer, yeah, it's like, it looks like the top of a grand piano that was slightly smaller. And you took the part with took the part out where the strings are, and that's what the dulcimer looks like. So anyway, what I just noticed is how much the music changed. The other night I was walking across Ponte Sisto, which is a bridge, a very famous bridge in the center, the square Piazza Turlusa, right at the edge of the bridge, and there was a reformer there, just a man with a microphone set up, and a very enthusiastic crowd singing along with whatever he was singing. And then there was a bachelor party there, which made it a bit more intense. But everybody in the crowd knew the song, and whenever he would get to the chorus, so I want to play it so we can say, do you know this song? Is it super famous? Yeah. You got to listen to Bittersweet Life during the day. But yeah, I could tell you who this is. I don't know, because it's one of those extremely famous pop rock Italian singers with a super long career, like 70s, 80s, 90s. I'm trying to think of an American counterpart to these. It's like, but it's like Italian pop music. Rossi, maybe. I'm sure people are listening are like, come on. It's one of those songs you hear all the time. And like people love to sing along with it. I don't know the words, but I can hum the melody. It's a true classic, like classic Italian rock, I'd say. Well, that's so interesting because like walking around, like with the exception of the dulcimer, which was played by a very older gentleman. The music in the city now feels very young, very rock and roll, very jazz, very blues heavy, which is interesting. Yeah. I mean, I guess, it's, I don't know what to tell you. Maybe the lack of the tourists in the city for a little while, that maybe the lack of the accordion or the requirement for the accordion. As time passed, and the time with like less tourists, maybe the buskers had to up their game for something for the locals versus the tourists. Yeah, maybe they're clustered around these people. And I mean, I do have to report to you that my favorite accordion player would wear a sombrero on the Ponte Sisto, and she's not there anymore. Yeah, no, I know who you're talking about. I loved her. She was very good, in a way better than the average accordion player in Rome. She was amazing. So that's some of the things I've been listening to around town. Okay, let me ask you another question. Have you noticed more outdoor seating, more sidewalk seating? Yeah, definitely more outside. But I mean, I felt like Rome had outdoor seating, but it's great. I mean, in Seattle, people be astounded because Seattle has like no outdoor seating, before. Then suddenly there's outdoor seating everywhere. But yeah, it's tripled. Even in Rome, it's astounding. But because of that, I'm noticing restaurants I never even noticed. Like maybe it was a pocket restaurant and all of a sudden there's tables outside. And I'm like, hey, has that restaurant always been there? Yeah, I mean, I love it. I love that there's so many picturesque places in Rome, like Piazza de Pietra, where they just, they don't allow it there. But now, that like they have it. But there's just so many really beautiful places to just sit and take in the scenery. I really love that. Yeah, and this is just another reminder here. Don't forget to support your favorite podcasts, right? Support Bittersweet Life so they can keep the show going, right? What are some other things that may have changed or stayed the same? Well, I don't know if this is the same or not, but I wanted to catch a recording of seagulls, The seagulls are a visible part of Rome, picking stuff up, spreading around, like almost like meowing cats. Have you ever noticed they sound similar? Trying to think. I don't know if I've noticed that. Well, yeah, if you, like a meow, the gulls almost meow. I've always noticed the gulls here, especially along the Tiber River, of course. If you wake up to the sound of seagulls and other birds, you hear this meowing. It's just like a feline sound, I guess. So I don't know. Maybe it's just being used to the sound of cats. Well, the first time I noticed it was on the Italian Riviera. They sounded so much like cats that I thought it was a cat. And because our whole trip to Italy had been quiet up until we got to the coast, we got to the Riviera, and all of a sudden it was like loud. Rome's loud. But I heard this loud meowing, and I was like, whoa, those are loud cats. Then I looked over and I said, no, it's a seagull. And I have a recording of it in the distance. Do you ever find that there's more parrots here than when you were here last time? I haven't seen more, but I hear them. I don't know. Maybe it does seem like there's where I'm staying. It's a little closer to trees, so maybe that's why I'm hearing the gulls more. I don't know. We could hang out and look for bird. We could do some, instead of bird, we could do some birding out on our balcony. You could see them day in and day out. They are fun to see, even though they don't the parrots aren't from here. Yeah, I like them. These long, gorgeous green feathers. Yeah. Well, we got to go soon. I still haven't heard any accordion music. I'd like to record some accordion pop music. I got some I recorded in Prague and some jazz in Prague. But that's the only accordion I heard was in Prague. Well, I'll keep my ears open here in Rome for the accordions and every other kind of music. Yeah, report back to me. Okay. Well, that's the end of our Bittersweet Life crossover. But maybe we should go through the list of bridges in Rome, even though it's incomplete on Wikipedia, and run through those just to carry you off for the last few minutes to dreamland. Sure, there's the Pons Sublicius, Ponte di Castel Gubilio, Ponte de Tor de Quinto, Ponte Cestio, once called the Ponte San Bartolomeo, the Ponte Flaminio, that was only 51, Ponte Milvio, Ponte Nometano, Ponte Duca de Asta, Ponte de Musica Armando Trovajoli, Ponte Risorgimento, Ponte Matteo Oti, Ponte Nanini, Ponte Regina Margherita, Ponte Cavour, Ponte Umberto I, Ponte Sant'Angelio, Ponte Vittorio Emilio II, Ponte Principe Amadeo, Ponte Mazzini, Ponte Sisto. There's one that came up. Ponte Garibaldi, Ponte San Bartolomeo, Ponte de Quattro Capi, Ponte Roto, Ponte Platino, Ponte Aviento, Ponte Tessacchio, Ponte della Industria, Ponte della Ciencia, Ponte Settimia Spizzici, Ponte Macroni, Ponte della Magellina, Ponte di Mezzocamino. Okay, let's read about Ponte Sisto. That's a bridge in Rome's historic center, spanning the River Tiber. And it was constructed between 1473 and 1479. Reused foundations of a prior Roman bridge, the Pons Aurelis, which was lost in the Middle Ages, currently pedestrian only. Before that, it was another bridge. It's architecturally characteristic because of the oculus and the central spandrel. And that was erected to diminish the river's pressure. On the left of the bridge are two marble slabs, but they got taken out. And then what else we got here? It's got quite the history, 1600s, 1800s. And yeah, I mean, it's not that far from the Spanish Steps, which I think we've covered. Maybe we've covered before. I want to say we have. How about some Tiber River facts to close this out then? Third longest river in Italy, longest in central Italy. Goes through Tuscany, Umbria, Lazio. And it drains a basin estimated at 17,370 square kilometers. And it goes to Rome, which was founded on its eastern banks. River rises in central Italy and flows generally southerly direction and until it reaches the sea. Known in ancient times as Flavus, that's a reference to the color of the river. It has advanced significantly 3 kilometers since Roman times. It does not have a proportional delta owing to its strong north-flowing sea close to shore and the shelving of the coast and slow tectonic subsidence. And the source of the river is two springs 10 meters apart from one another, La Vene, V-E-N-A, and they're in a beach forest 1,268 meters above sea level. And, yeah, I think that's it, everybody. Hopefully you get a nice daytime listen to those 2 episodes of The Bittersweet Life. Thanks for listening and good night. Everybody, this is Scoots with a Talk You In message from someone who supports the show. And here's what it comes down to. If you're listening to me right now, do you listen to Sleep With Me on a regular basis? If the answer is no, don't worry about anything I'm going to say after this. Can you afford to support the show back? At like $10, 27, 10, $20 a month. If it's no, or if you don't have something like a subscription, you say, do I even use that? And that costs like $10 a month. I could be giving that to Sleep With Me. That makes my life better. But that's all it comes down to. Like, do you listen to Sleep With Me on a regular basis? Do you listen all night? If you listen all night, it can't be more critical that I get your attention. But yeah, if you listen to 2, 3, 4 episodes a week, like 10 episodes a month, the podcast actually makes your life better, and you count on the podcast. I got to tell you, we count on you to support the show back. If you count on the podcast, people that just like listen casually, they don't count on the podcast like you do. And those are the people we need to support. We need to support the show back. We count on them. We count on listeners like you. So I'm going to read something from somebody that counts on the podcast and that supports the show back. And this comes from Steph and Corey, who said, I've dealt with trouble falling asleep and staying asleep for my whole life. I've tried a lot of the traditional things that are supposed to help, but nothing worked for very long. I found Sleep With Me at 1 a.m. when I was desperately searching for something new, and it clicked. I started supporting the show a week later, and I supported the show ever since, and it's still putting me to sleep. And like the biggest obstacle to me signing up was I was a little worried, like everything else, that the show wouldn't work for me. There was the ad-supported version that worked just fine. It felt a little weird to pay for something you don't really listen to. But then I realized that's the point. If I'm not really listening, then it's doing its job, which is worth paying for. Holy cow. That's a great answer. I never even thought about that as an obstacle. So it's another thing I'm learning. Like, why would I pay for something that I benefit from, but I don't listen to? So thank you so much, Steph and Corey. If you identify, sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Can't do without you. But I don't want to do it. Like, if I couldn't bore you to sleep, especially those of you that need the show the most, that's what makes the work magical for this podcast. So thanks.